Hi everybody, this is Pastor Brad, and this is my attempt at kind of touching base with everybody in the church. Since we're not having church, and believe me, talking to a camera is not my deal, but I'd much rather be together with you on a Sunday morning, visiting back and forth, watching you, shaking hands, all those things that we have traditionally done, but of course we live in a time now that things have changed significantly. So I'm going to just touch base with you. And if you think this is beneficial, kind of let me know, and we can do it again. Or you can talk to Wade or any other leader in the church, and we can try to follow up with some other things if we think this is beneficial. But most of you know by now that the leadership of the church got together, and we've suspended church till the end of April. I know that's not news to you, but I want you to know how difficult a decision that was. Because we got together and we talked about lots of different things. One of the first things that comes out as we think about that is Hebrews 10 tells us to not forsake the gathering together of believers. And, you know, when people are in trial and difficulty and struggle, I mean, that's when they need the church. And that's where we are. And so we really struggled with the realities of ministering to people in the midst of hardship and trial. On the other hand, you have the verse that comes out to mind is, obey them that have the rule over you and submit yourself. And so we have a governor and a president who's handed down, you know, the different guidelines for social spacing. You know the drill, not 6 feet, no more than 10 people and all of that. And so we don't want to be looked at as rebellious. And so we want to, as best we can, fit in with our authorities and what they're asking us to do. And then, of course, that leads into, we have a constitutional right to assemble as well, and they can't take that away from us. And a lot of people see our liberties and our freedoms being stripped away daily, and I'm not going to debate that at all, because I can see the same thing. But I guess as leadership talked about it, what it boiled down to was this. We looked around our congregations, and we realized that a good percentage of our people are elderly, and a lot of them even have underlying health conditions. So we thought it'd be prudent for the good of the body to postpone church for a time. And so that's what we've done. If that's caused you hardship, I'm sorry about that. And if you want to talk to me about your view on whether we should have church or not have church, feel free to call me at any time, and I'll visit with you. But in the meantime, that's what we've decided to do, and we're going to kind of move forward on that or go in that direction. So I want to leave you with this thought, though. I have one small devotional thought, I guess you could call it, before we go. I was reading through Matthew. I read through the Gospels fairly regularly, and the Sermon on the Mount especially, Matthew 5, 6, and 7. And I would encourage you to read that yourself. But there was one verse that stood out to me that I'm going to share with you tonight, or I guess if you're listening to it in the morning, it's in the morning, but I'll share with you now, and that is this. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 26, Jesus is addressing believers, and he asks us to consider or behold or look at the fowls of the air. So if you've got a window, look out your window. And I realize that right now, you could do that. If you can see out your window, maybe you can't, that's okay. But maybe you can in your mind's eye look out your window, and you can see birds out there flying around, eating, doing the different things that they do, whether they be sparrows or finches or whatever, robins. Jesus says in Matthew 6:26 for us to look at them, to consider them, to mull them, to look at them closely. And there's one Christian guy named John Stott who took that verse so seriously that he became a bird watcher. I'm not suggesting you do that, but I do want you to consider the fowls of the air. And this is what he says in the King James. He uses the word behold. And so I'm going to read it to you. And he says this. He says, behold the fowls of the air, for they sow not, neither do they reap, nor gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feedeth them. Now, I'm going to save the last verse for just a second. But your heavenly Father, that's who he is to you. We talk about the sovereign creator of the universe, the great I am. As Christian people, we can call him. He is our Father. He's our Abba Father. And he cares for us. And he cares for us even better than he does for the birds of the air. So as we read that verse and we say, and he asks us, Jesus asks us to behold the fowls of the air, and they sow not, and they reap not, and they gather in the barns, yet your heavenly Father feedeth them. He says this, are you not much better than they? And certainly you are. Certainly you are. You understand that. So at a time like this, when we're dealing with all kinds of uncharted waters and lots of question marks in our mind, when you go for your walk, if you go for your walk, or if you stand at your window and you look out the window and you see the birds flying around, I want you to think about what Jesus said. Consider, behold the fowls of the air. Are you not much better than they? That's a thought I want to leave you with as we face difficult times and uncertain times. So may the Lord bless you, and feel free to contact me or any other leader in the church about this and future opportunities for us to share online. Thank you very much.